whiteboarding tool. And here, let me just drop this in there too so y'all get a sense of who I am and what it is that we're doing here. So hi everybody. My name is Miguel Cardona, otherwise known as Miggi from Figgy. So I'm a designer advocate at Figma, and what that means is I work with students, educators, designers to get up-leveled in Figma. I run a lot of these workshops. I also work on, I work with the editor team, and I work with like the FigJam team to give insights. If any of you are familiar with some of the recent updates in Figma, I worked on the auto layout playground. So I work closely with the auto layout team doing like feedback, bug reports, and improvements on the auto layout feature. Um, Today's workshop, we're going to be kind of covering a little bit of FigJam in the beginning, but I'm going to highlight some of the new ways in Figma that you can work and hopefully, increase some productivity and give you all some insights in the way that you can work in Figma. So for those of you just joining us on the Zoom call, click on that link and you can hop into this file with us. So a couple quick things in FigJam. We have cursor chat. So if I hit the / key or I right click and click cursor chat on my canvas, I could say hello. So if any of you are there in the file with me, y'all could say hello. High fives, if you press and hold the H key and wiggle vigorously from side to side, it doesn't work up and down, vigorously work side to side, your little hand pops up. So Devika or Generous, you want to give me a high five? So press and hold that H key. I've actually been running. Ah, there we go. Boom. That was a really good high five. Generous, you got a good color. I like that pink. That's fresh. All right. So emotes. If I press the E key, I could drop little stickers. But more importantly, if you click on this little smiley face that you see up here at the top, you can press and hold and drop in emotes in the file. So if I press the E key, I could click on the flames. Once again, I could like laugh if somebody drops a joke. I could also just drop some little sad faces if somebody sells a little sad story. Yo, what not ho? Yo, how's it going? All right, cool. Also, when working in FigJam, if you ever need to time anything, so let's say you're under a bit of a crunch or you're trying to give people their time back, you can always go ahead up here whenever you're working on a workshop or a brainstorm. You can click on the timer right here, and you can set that time. All right, and then the one thing I want to highlight is this is going to take us in the first feature. This was recently announced at Config. We have the Spotlight feature. So if I go up here to my little avatar, I could go ahead and click Spotlight Me, and then that will make you all follow me, right? So it'll actually tell me how many people. So I got 6 followers following me in the file right now. So as I move around this file, you can kind of see where I am and what it is that I'm covering. So a couple quick things. This navigation works both in FigJam and Figma. So if you hold the space bar, you can drag and move around. You could zoom in and out by hitting the command key and using your scroll wheel, or you could use the pinch gesture on your laptop. There's other ways that you could zoom in and out. Hit the Z key and just draw a little area where you want to zoom in, and then you could hold down the Option or Alt key and click out to zoom out. I feel that it's really important to get a good sense of how to navigate in Figma. Also, these next 2 little things, I always like to bring them up because I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, Design Details with like Brian Lovin, and he had no idea that the keyboard shortcut pane was a thing in Figma. And I was like, gotta emphasize that. So quick actions menu in Figma is when you hit Command / or Command P. And what that does is it brings up this little action bar and you can search for features or functions that you want to trigger. So if I was to type in sticky note, right, I could quickly get a sticky note. So if I hit Command / or Command P, I could type in the word keyboard shortcuts, and that's going to give me this little keyboard shortcuts pane at the bottom of my screen. This works in both FigJam and in Figma. So this is actually the way that I learned how to like navigate myself around Figma and FigJam by using keyboard shortcuts. They're going to save you tons of mouse miles being the miles that you run with your mouse. All right, so today we're going to cover a whole bunch of new things. So FigJam, if you haven't used it recently, recently. Over the past few weeks, we actually released a whole bunch of new features. So one thing here is going to be sections. So to get a section, you press Shift S and you could draw out this section. The cool thing about sections is it'll collect the things that you have. So if I have diagram dots and squares and I have stickies and I have, like, let's say a sticker. So let me go over here into this bar. I'm going to go to stickers. I'm going to grab a little hand wave. Right now, when I click on the section, all of those objects will move with it. But what's really cool is that you can't accidentally select it from the sides. So sections are really cool because it gives you that opportunity to generate sections for your brainstorm, for your diagrams, right? And then here I could even rename it. So I drag it by its name, but I can't move these little areas. So sections are pretty cool. Washi tape, this was a feature introduced April Fun Day. You can now add in washi tape all you want. So if you go ahead and you press the W key, it'll bring up washi tape. You could draw it out. Fun fact with washi tape, you could copy paste it into Figma. You can also create custom washi tape. So I'm going to go ahead and create generous washi tape right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little washi tape. I'm going to click this little plus symbol. Hold on. Let me make sure I save that to my screen. There we go. Click this little custom symbol and I'm going to grab this screenshot that I just made. And now, boom, generous washi tape. So custom washi tape is a hell of a lot of fun. So give that a try. Cool thing about it too, I can actually click on it and then change it into something else. So I could change it to these cute little toads, these fun little cacti, and I can make it like little sushi. So check that out. Expressive cursor chat. So now if I hit / I could put in a bunch of exclamation points. It'll start shaking my cursor. Likewise, if I say fire, right, it'll drop little fire. If I say cool, so there's a bunch of these hidden in the interface. So various things you type in, I could say slick, and then it has that little sheen across it. Sad face. I don't know if that does anything. I could just say, I think, yay. Nope. I can't even remember all of them. Let me see. Just remember cool. There we go. Sweet. And LOL. There we go. LOL also works. So there's a bunch of those that are kind of like hidden in there. I see you, Mark. Way to rep it. All right, so now we also have custom text sizes here in FigJam as well. So this was like a pain point for a lot of people. You press the T key, you're drawing some text, but you're only limited to a certain amount of text sizes. So you see here, you can actually just go ahead and type in your own. So I can make it 144. I could make it 288. So, and you'll even notice there's fun little names for each of these large text sizes. So this is ginormous. Let's see if I'll make it go even larger than that. Let's say like 900. What is that? That's called towering. Let's go even more. Let's go crazy. Let's go 1200. What is that? Oh, that's still towering. Let's say 2000. Boom, omnipresent text, folks. You've seen it here first. So that's really cool. I like the little addition and the nice little nod, the little bit of delight with the fun naming of the sizes. Also, now we got larger stickies. So you drop a sticky in. First off, when you drop text into a sticky, you can scale it and make it whatever size you want. That was previously limited, but now you could drag it and make it wider for little index card stickies. So index card stickies, and I can make that even bigger. So boom, got big text on my index card sticky, can make it larger, and I could choose to hide or display my name. So stickies, it's kind of like that unexpected feature, making it a little bit better. Also, we have an updated color palette. I think I spelled color palette wrong, but what you can do with the updated color palette is a lot of objects. You can make any color you want. So what's really cool about this is if I type some text in here, right? So I go ahead and I now make this, white. It will update the foreground color of the text. So like by changing the color here, right? If it will constantly update it to match an appropriate contrast ratio for accessibility. So if you have an object and you're doing diagramming, what you could do is you change that color up and it'll change the color of the foreground text to make it just that much better for you. And also we got a whole bunch of new stickers. So if I hop in here and I go to stickers, you'll see that there's some new libraries in here that are pretty fun, like this one called reactors. So when I click on here, and there we go, I got a fun little reactor right there. Woo! That's the sound that it makes. Cool. So those are some of the new things. Normally I would say, hey, if you're out here, let's stamp a stamp. Let me know if you've been in one of my workshops. So here, just be like, like, are you brand new to Figma? Are you a Figma design enthusiast? If you click and hold and know that it scales up your sticky, let me know. So basically, just let me know where you at. Just drop any sort of sticker, press the E key and click the little stamp and drop a stamp to let me know if you are new to Figma. So like when I hop into Figma, I know how to work it. Press the E key to bring up your own. Press the E key, Ashley. Yeah. So then this way, when we hop into Figma, I got a sense of where y'all are at. So just go ahead, press the E key, drop a star, drop a avatar. For those of you with a Figma account, and you're, even if you just press the E key, just click, drag, drop a dot even. There you go. And then let me know if like this is the first time you've seen one of my workshops. If you've been here before, I just like to know if I got any repeat visitors, in the house. All right, cool. And then while I start up this next part, you'll see here I got a little share a doodle section. So what I would like y'all to do is, if you have a minute, draw your favorite animal. I drew my cat right here, a little black cat. Gave her, her name is Eartha Kitt. She's got some food right here, got a little shadow going on. So once again, you could press the M key, that's the marker tool. So you could draw with the marker tool, and you'll notice you can pick any color that you want under the rainbow. So previously in FigJam, you couldn't do this. You could change the size of your text. You could also use the highlighter colors. So there is a limit on the highlighter colors. So I could just kind of draw this color behind my cat there. There you go. I'm gonna press, what is it, command backspace to bring that back. And feel free to draw a little character. So while you're doing that, just want to see where you're at. Let's put a minute on the clock, because we have a minute on the clock. I'm gonna put a timer. Let's do 1 minute on the clock. I'm actually gonna draw a little thing. So y'all came here. Ooh, I see. Oh, feel free to drop your name underneath that those boards, so you could just double click and change that to be your name. Ooh, that looks like a sheep, Devika. And then Chrissy's got like a little duck going. Generous has a doge. Ooh, he quickly went to the doge. Wow, I could call that solely by the profile. All right, I'm gonna add like another minute to this just because I like where this is going. I'm getting some good engagement from y'all. Cool. So, what is your favorite animal? I thought Devika was drawing a sheep. This is drawing like a happy person. All right. Oh, now they went back and they got more little clouds going there, and that's cool. I like that. All right, I'm gonna draw another little animal. Let's see, what am I gonna draw? I'm gonna draw a giraffe. Do 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 do. There we go. Giraffe got that long neck. Boom, got that little bit of a profile. Boom. And then giraffe's got a black tongue. Boop. And then let's make like a little smiley, little smiley eyes right there. There you go. There's my giraffe. Got some little color shapes on it. Do 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 do. This is very important work, people, that we're doing here today. Very important work. I promise you. I'm gonna draw a little tree too, because the giraffe likes a tree. That's how it eats. Make sure that my giraffe is well fed. Put a little thing there, and voila. All right, cool. So this is how we get better acquainted, folks. I mean, we're gonna be hopping over into Figma. All right, cool. All right. Ooh, I'm feeling that turtle, Ashley. I'm loving that Doge. Don't say please excuse my artistic ability. That is fantastic artistic ability. I understood. I could see that you understood the assignment. So that is great. All right, cool. Natasha, really feeling that purple cat. Cool. So we got some talented folks in the room. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more Figma now. So if you'll see, I have today's Figma file. Also, those of you that are in the file, I have a couple of blog posts that you could check out. all of these playground files right here. So I'm gonna put a little like, let me star this up, right? So these are playground files. I worked on the auto layout one, component properties, variable font, spring animations. These are files that you can duplicate and check out a little bit more in depth into some of these features. You could watch a little video on the auto layout. So I'm gonna show you a lot of this, but for further reading, check that out. One video that you might find helpful. This is breaking into the design field. It's a live stream that I ran with some of my former students who are now working at I believe Squarespace or Square. I can't remember. It's one of the Square companies, Grammarly, Google, and Pinterest. So check that out. They give you some advice for new students. All of these are additional template files that you can check out in the community. So I'm going to give you all access to this file. Let me just make sure anyone with the link can edit. Cool. So those of you for this portion of the demo, you will need a Figma account. So I saw there was a couple visitors here. So make sure that when you join this file right here, that you are actually working with your Figma account. Let me make sure too that I put it the correct one. I'm not seeing anybody join the file here. Y'all able to access it? Okay, cool. There we go. There's Generous. I'll see you now. So happy to see you all here in this other file. All right, cool. So the one basic here I do want to emphasize is that, quick actions, Command/Command P, you might see me use this a bunch. If there's ever like a feature or function that you don't quite know how to trigger, it's usually best to find it in this way, or if you want to find the keyboard shortcuts here. The first thing I'm going to talk to y'all about today, you'll see over here on the left, I have several different pages. I've excerpted some things from these like layout files. The first thing I'm going to talk to y'all today about, and I actually realized that I didn't do this file. I already used this file. So let me just break that apart and break this apart. I'm going to show y'all a couple things with auto layout. Actually, you know what? Let's not even do that. Let's just go fresh in a nice clean file. So I'm going to go fresh. Let's call this demo. We're just going to go off script, folks. This is how we're going to do it here today. So I'm in the demo page. If you want to follow me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spotlight. So if you want, you can actually do this alongside me. So I'm going to do the demo right here. So if you want to be a little bit more to the right or to the left, feel free to do so. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all how auto layout works. I'm going to press the T key and I'm going to draw some text. So I'm going to say button, right? So I press the T key and I put some text. So if you look over on the left, you'll see that the button text is there. Now to turn this into an auto layout frame, what I'm going to do is press Shift A. Right? And you'll notice the first thing you'll see over here on the left that you now have this little icon, and you'll see that that text box is now nested inside of it, right? If you ever want to undo an auto layout frame, it's going to be Option Shift A. Now, if you're just like, man, Mig, you're going to drop a lot of shortcut keys. All of those shortcut keys I have in this file right here. Right? So you will all have access to this file. You can go ahead, you could duplicate this file. So after I kind of go through this demo, everyone feel free, duplicate it, and you'll be able to get a copy of your own. Okay, so I'm going to cover a lot of keyboard shortcuts. All of those keyboard shortcuts are going to be covered in this file as well, in these like little areas that I'm mentioning. All right, so Option Shift A breaks the auto layout, and then it gives you this frame here. And if I want to clear out that frame, I'm going to hit Shift Command G, right? So then it brings it back. So what auto layout does is if you have a frame, so if I already had a frame around my button text and I hit Shift A, that turns that frame into auto layout. But in the absence of a frame, it will convert it to auto layout. And then you're probably thinking, well, what's auto layout? And what it is a frame that responds to its content, or a frame that can make its content respond to it. So right now, by putting that button text in there, as I type this out, you see that the frame responds to it. So as that text field grows, the frame grows. So right here, if I select that frame, you see up here, this is the first new change that was made. frame resizing now exists in the frame panel. So the vertical aspects of the frame are set to hug and the horizontal aspects of the frame are set to hug. And what they're doing is they're hugging their contents, whatever's inside of this. So if I was to, let's say, draw like a little arrow, right? So I'm drawing an arrow using my vector tools. Let's make it a chunky arrow, right? I got a chunky arrow and I'm going to take this chunky arrow and I'm going to drop it. Oops. I'm going to X out of it. I'm going to drop it in here. So now my chunky arrow is also part of this auto layout frame. So both of these items are in here. They're being arranged and you'll see that they're part of this. So one new feature of auto layout is if I click, I can actually see the padding around the object and the spacing within. So I can expand that space and I can retract it. I can retract this padding and expand it. So I'm going to show you some of the cool ways to interact with this. Okay. So feel free if you want over here. Let's start this over again. We could do this together. So press the T key, draw in some text. I'm gonna type in the word Miggi, right? So if everybody you want to hit the T key, let me see. I'm gonna make sure y'all have edit access. Y'all should all have edit access. Go ahead, right in here. Just click the T key, right? And once you have that text, whack Shift A, right? So Shift A, what that's going to do is that's going to place it inside of an auto layout frame. Now, when it's inside of this auto layout frame, it doesn't have any background color, right? So you don't really got a sense of that space. So with that frame selected, let's go over here and select a fill. So then now you'll see a fill on that background color, right? So I have my text, I put it into an auto layout frame. That auto layout frame gives me some padding on the top, right, bottom, and left. And if I go over here and I select fill, it will now fill up that background with a color. So Ray's got it. Let's see how many of y'all got this. And there might be a couple instances where like I'll skip ahead, but I'll always come back. All right, cool. So now with this frame, let's say if I want to add in another element. So I'm going to hit the P key and it's going to turn on the pen tool. And then I'm going to click a little dot. I'm going to hold the shift key. I'm going to click another dot. I'm going to hold the shift key. I'm going to click another dot. I'm going to hit the escape key. I'm going to select that first dot and then go back down here to make a little arrow. And I can select over here in the properties to make it a chunky arrow. Right? And if I want to have rounded corners, I can select that arrow and I can change the endpoints as well. So I can give it rounded endpoints. And now with that arrow, I can just go ahead and drag it into that auto layout and I can see that I have two of these elements in my auto layout. If I want to make that the arrow a little bit smaller, I'm gonna hit the scale tool with the K key and drag it down in size. Let me make that stroke nice even 4, right? And you'll notice a couple things here too, right? Like it's kind of up to the top. All right, so if you want to watch my screen, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for editing this. And if you ever get stuck in scale mode, so if I have the K key turned on, I'm not going to see the on canvas adjustments, right? So you always want to hit the V key and go back to the normal arrow tool. So if I had the K key turned on for scaling, right, I'm not going to see the auto layout option. So I have to hit the V key to go back. And there you go, I could see those points. So here now, I'm gonna show y'all how to adjust the spacing on the top and the bottom. I'm gonna hold down the Option key, and that's gonna adjust the opposite side spacing. So hold down the Option key, it's gonna adjust the opposite side spacing. If I hold down the Option and the Shift key, it'll adjust all the sides together at the same time. So the Option and the Shift key will adjust all the sides at the same time. So like if I even want to hop in here to the spacing, if I hold just the shift key with the spacing, it'll actually space by its big nudge value, right? So right here is my big nudge value. If you don't know what your big nudge is, you're going to hit Command P and then type in nudge, and you can change your nudge amount. So your nudge amount is the spacing by which you move an object on your canvas with the arrow keys, right? And then when you hold shift with the arrow keys, that's your big nudge. So right now, a value of 8. So if I have like a rectangle and I press shift right, it's moving it by 8 pixels. Now that value is going to be honored if I have my spacing here and I hold my shift key. Now you'll see that as I drag this, those values are going to snap by values of 8, right? So 8, 16, 24. So if I come up right here, 20, 16, 8, right? And I could drag it up by values of 8. So one really cool aspect to this is this canvas editing, but you can also just type the values in. So I can click right here and I can see the value for this top padding. Now, let's say, you want to go through here fast, right? Or like, let's say you click on this top one and you want to see the padding around them. If I hit the tab key, right, now I'm on the right. If I hit the tab key, now I'm on the bottom. If I hit the tab key, now I'm on the left. Tab, 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 tab. So it's going to go top, right, bottom, left, then spacing. So this tab key right now, you have to press enter to accept it. It's a little bit of a bug, but by next week, once you just type in the value, so if I go 12 tab, 12 tab, 12 tab, that will work. Right now, there's just a little bit of a bug. They already have a pull request out to fix it, but so what you can do is if I do 12 and I press enter, it'll accept it. But another way to edit all of the values at the same time is to option shift click, and you'll see if you watch my screen right now what I just did. If you option shift click, right, this will actually just give you the ability to edit all values. So if I want all my padding values to be 40, I just type in 40 and now they're all 40. Option shift click and I want them all to be 20, now they're all 20. Right? And then likewise, anytime you have this selected, over here on the right, you have the auto layout panel, which will allow me to type in or drag these values out. And let's say once again, right, like I click here and here's all the values, but I don't feel like typing it into 4 different fields. I just want to change them all at the same time. If I hit command and click in one of those fields, boom, that opens up. It's all paddings, and I can just change that to 10. So command click right here, I go 40. Command click right here, and I go 12, right? So whatever value you want that to be, I'm gonna make that 20 right now. All right, how's that going? How y'all feeling? Feel like you're learning something? Yes? No? Maybe? All right, cool. So one other fun thing that I like about this is that I can go in here and you can adjust the placement of this object, right? And you probably have already seen this. So you've already adjusted it to, like, let's say the middle. So here, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to take my field, right? I'm going to just take my whole frame and scale it up. Now what that's doing, it's actually changing the auto layout frame because it's no longer set to hug. So you'll see right here, if you're watching my screen, it says hug by hug. So right now the vertical and the horizontal dimensions are clamping down or hugging the content that's inside of it, right? So if I open up that size, you'll notice that it will then swap over to being fixed, right? And that's okay for now because I want to demonstrate something with this being fixed. If you look in this auto layout pane, like let's say you describe the size and you want the content inside to adjust where you want it to be, right? I can click on this field over here and then use my arrow keys to go left, down, right? And I can actually move it around, right? And another thing that I can do here, so let's say if I moved it to the center and I actually want the space in between to be auto, like I wanted to push it apart. I want the arrow on the right to go to the right and my text on the left to go to the left. I just press the X key, right? And that'll change space between, regular, space between, regular. And that is with the little widget selected. So once again, up, down, right, left, right, I can move that around. I could also use WASD for the corner edges, right? It'll like take the absolute value, or down, down, right, right, up, up. Or I could press the X key and change that space between. And then also I could set B, which is baseline, and change it to baseline text. But let's see, I'm gonna change that to X. I'm gonna remove the baseline of the text, right? So there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts that can really speed up the workflow when you're beginning to adjust these. I'm gonna show you my next favorite shortcut that, once again, all of these are highlighted here. So you'll see that I'm talking about alignment, right? Here are those shortcuts that I'm demonstrating to y'all. So I want to make sure that y'all have this reference for it, right? Here's that text baselining property. So what I'm going to do back here in this demo is I'm going to show y'all how to snap this back. So let's say I want the top and the bottom to hug. So I'm going to just double click on that, and now they're set to hug, right? So if I want this to be hug, I just double click on that edge, and now it's set to hug. So if I draw it out, now they're both set to fixed values. So the two things you got to remember is that auto layout either conforms to the content, right? Or it defines the area for the content to be aligned. It does one of those two things. And so if it's fixed on the outside, the content inside needs to respond to the outside. If it's hug on the outside, then the content on the outside responds to the inside, right? And once again, that is highlighted right here, where either the container responds to the content size or the content responds to the container size. And I will kind of walk you through how that works. All right, cool. So let's say here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to double click. So this is hugged. I'm going to go ahead and make this a component. So I clicked up here. This is now a component, and I'm going to call this my, let me hit Command R and say list components. Command R automatically renames whatever layer you currently have selected. So when I select this, I hit Command R, and I'll just say Miggi list, right? That will now change that name. Command R is the shortcut to rename. So let's say I'm gonna make a list, right? So I got one, I'm holding down the Option key, dragging, right? So let's say I have two of these, right? And I select them and I press Shift A. So this is the powerful thing about auto layout, is that you can nest auto layout objects inside of an auto layout frame. So the way that you can see this here is that this list now has these two. So if I select one and hit Command D, it'll just duplicate it. Command D, it'll duplicate it, right? So now I have 4 items in this list. I'll show you that one more time. Let me undo. Let me even undo that one. So this is wrapped inside of an auto layout frame. Command D will duplicate it. Oh, maybe it's not anymore. Oh, it is. There we go. I have to select the object inside. Command D, Command D, Command D, right? So I have 4 of these in here. So this will be the list. So if this is a list item, right, then this is now a list. So this list is now also an auto layout frame, and I can either choose to let's add some padding to it so we can actually see kind of like the outside. Let's give it a fill of like, like red or pink or something so you can see it. So right now, this one is hug, so it's stacked to the contents inside. However, if I scale this up, you'll see then like, all right, cool. The other ones, they're in here, but the whole thing on the outside is aligning to it, right? So there's a couple ways to do this. So let me actually undo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the width of this, right? So the width here is now fixed. And let's say I want all of these to fill that gap, to fill that space. So this right here is going to be my list. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Option key and double click on that edge, and they'll be set to fill container. If I double click on just the edges, they're hug, right? And those are the 3 properties they could be. They either can be fixed, where you just see the value. They could be hugged, where they're hugging their content, or they could be fill, where they fill their container. Now, the keyboard shortcut for that is Option double click or Alt double click. And what that'll do is that'll automatically set that to fill container. The cool thing about it is that they are now responsive to that parent, right? So they're now kind of growing and working to that. And if I double click on any one of these, right, or if I double click on this frame, I could still see, the padding and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select these. I'm going to go to my auto layout and I'm going to press X, and now they're going to space between. So even though they're instances inside of this auto layout frame, they're instances of this, I can still change the auto layout properties of them right here using the pane. Cool. All right, any questions on that? Anybody? Let me check the chat. All right, cool. Here, let me make sure. Boom. All right, cool. So, um, let's see. Let's talk about a few more things here. So, with auto layout, right? There's a couple new features too. So let's say if I press the O key and once again, I got generous in the house, right? Let me see. I'm gonna join in. I got Lucy over here. Whoops. So let's say, we're chilling over here. We got like some stroke values around our faces. I'm gonna put it on the outside. Actually, don't matter. I'm gonna put it in the sensor. All right. So we chilling over here, and I'm gonna press Shift A. And by pressing Shift A, we're all in an auto layout object. So what I can do is I can tighten it up now to negative values. So previously in auto layout, just like a previous show, right, you couldn't do negative values, but now you can, right? So even if I hit duplicate, boom, boom, right, let me move them over. I'm gonna press the right key. So if you select an object in an auto layout, you can press the right key. There we go. So here I can adjust that spacing into like negative territory. And then like let's say I realize I'm like, oh snap, like, I wanted to be, let's say I'm all the way in the back and like I actually wanted to be on top. If I select this auto layout frame, you'll see this little three dots menu over here. And that's where you have a bunch of the like kind of additional advanced features, such as canvas stacking, where I can now say the first one is on top, right? Versus the last one on top. So this is another thing that was a bit of a pain in the butt to do, but now you can just kind of set it right here. Um, and yeah, what do y'all think of that? All right, so another feature that has been highly requested, if I was to, let's say I wanted to add a stroke to this. So let's say my list here, I have not negative spacing, but like zero spacing, right? And let's say I wanted a bottom stroke value to each of these, right? And I go to my parent component. If I click on stroke, right, stroke value puts it all the way around, right? However, now we got this thing called independent strokes. So if I click on this little button right here that says strokes per side, when I hover over it, you'll see all top, bottom, left, right. So I'm going to click on bottom. So there we are. We've got that bottom stroke going. And let's say I want that bottom stroke on the outside, right? So the bottom stroke is on the outside. And now that becomes a problem for me because here in my layout, right, that bottom stroke seems to be, like on the outside of my object. So actually, move this down. Let me see. All right, so it's on the bottom stroke of my object. So what I can do now with my list, hopefully this works, is I can select this, go to my auto layout, and say strokes are included in layout. There we go. Boom, it totally worked. All right, so strokes can now be included as part of the layout, which means that even though the stroke is on the outside, right, and I can add value to that stroke, it's still recognized as an independent value. So in the past, people would have to go ahead and draw a line in. So not only have the object, but then have a line, then have an object, then a line. Now I could just apply that stroke value. And like, let's say if I don't want it on the last one, right, because this is an instance, I can still override that value and just remove it. So then that makes your life a lot easier, because you can go over here and apply that value, and that works kind of great. So there we go. So strokes have width. That's another little feature. So the one thing that I'm going to comment on is, like, I know that Generous made a really awesome video about 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to give them props for this, with a zero height container. I'm actually waiting to see if Generous acknowledges what I'm saying. But we released a feature that kind of renders it moot a little bit. So I apologize, Generous, for your effort. So I will show you that feature, and what the cool things that you can make with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the text tool and I'm going to say hello, right? And inside this hello, I'm press Shift A. That's going to give me the frame. I'm going to make the fill of that black, but then I'm going to select my text on the inside and I'm going to make that white. So I'm going to select this frame here. I'm going to round out those corners. I'm going to give a little bit of padding on the top and the bottom, let's say I'm gonna give a little more on the right as well. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a little bitty. Let's see, here we go. My little polygon bitty, right? And with this polygon, you'll see that like right now it's trying to compensate for the optical center of the triangle. Let's say I don't even want that. I could just hit Command E, that'll flatten it. So I got a perfect little triangle. I'm gonna set it the same color as that hello. Let's make it a tiny little bit more. Let's just say, there we go. The height's 24, the width is 32. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna drop it right in to there, right? And if you lose it, right? See, it's easy to lose. I'm like, where to go? I'm going to show you a new feature that we increased the capabilities of. The outline mode is now Shift O, so I can hit outline mode to kind of see where it is. But the most important thing that I want to do here is here. Let's make it whiter so I can see it. I'm going to do absolute positioning. So here in the top right, you'll see when I hover, absolute position. So now that this is absolutely positioned, right, and I hold the space bar key, by holding the space bar key, it's going to keep it inside of my scope, right? Otherwise, if I don't, it's going to drop it outside. I don't want that to happen. I'm going to start dragging it. I'm going to hold the space bar key and I'm going to snap it to the bottom of this thing. And let's make it the correct color so we can see it there. So this is now absolutely positioned in this text box. And what I want to do is I want to apply constraints to it so it behaves the way I want to. Like right now, if I type text, it doesn't move. I want it to move with my text. So when I select this, you'll see these little blue lines, right? If you look at my screen, you'll see these blue lines, and that identifies its constraints. So right now the constraints are left and top. We don't want that. We're going to set that to center and bottom. So what those constraints are going to do is tell that little thing how to behave. So as I fill this out, it's going to follow it and go exactly where I want it to be. So if I hit Shift O in outline mode, you see it's a lot simpler the way that this is constructed, right? So I can go here and be like, hello. So what's cool about this is I can now make this a component and I can call this like, call out. Right? So I have my call out. Let me take the moment here to demonstrate component properties as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how component properties works in a very simple way and how to make use of it. So with this, I mean, one cool thing that you could do with this actually is I'm going to select this. I'm going to go over and select the text inside. So when I select the text inside, you'll see this new little panel down here called content. And there's this little icon that says apply text property. So I'm going to apply this text property. I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this callout underscore text. I'm going to give it a value of, I'm going to say, bottom call out. And I'm going to create a property. So what's cool about this is that now I can just go over here, like I can select any instance of this component and you'll see this call out text value, and I can change it. So I can just call it Miggi and it'll change the text. So I'll be like, doodad, right? I'm changing it over here and that updates it there. So if I wanted to make this like, let's say like a comprehensive set, where let's say I have a bottom call out, a top call out, right? I can kind of tell those how to behave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to add a couple more variants. So let's see. So I got one variant. Here we go. I got a second one. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to Shift H. Oops. I want to make sure I keep that inside. There we go. Stay inside. Make sure, boom. I'm going to move it up with the arrow keys first. Okay, cool. Shift V, and I'm going to move it up to the top. We'll hold the space bar. There we go. So now I'm going to have, well, actually, this should be called top call out. Top call out. This one. Oh, what am I doing here? All right, I will fix it. I think it just needs, because it has a property. That's why it's called that way. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to call this call out. All right, cool. So I have the top one, I have the bottom one. So this one, center and top. Let's have another one. Let's put this one on the right. So I'm gonna like just rotate that there. I'm gonna hold on the space bar and let's center it there to the middle. Let's move it down. And this one's gonna be, let's say, to the right and center, right? So it's right and center. Oops. Having like a weird issue where it's not centering just the way I want it to. Did it give me my third variant? Yeah, that's variant 3. Okay, cool. So so I'm gonna go here, and right now this is called property 1. So the property is basically gonna be its position. Position. There we go. And I can give them all names. So this one is gonna be called top. This one's gonna be called bottom. So we see current variant. This one's gonna be called left. And let's create one more. And this is gonna be called right. And I'm just going to move that little bit inside, flip it horizontally, and snap it there. Make sure, you know, the whole thing can be seen. And now the one thing that I want to recommend is make sure, you know, all of your little elements are being nested in the way that they're supposed to. So I know I ran into like that little issue where that wasn't aligning properly. So just always check on the left-hand side. And so see, this one's position right, this is position left, this is position bottom, this is position top. And they all, if I click this little target right here, it'll show you all of those matching layers. And you could see that it has that property of call out text. So when I select this little doodad, I can go in and I can, you know, type, right? And then, you know, with it selected, I can just change that content right here. So I could say, you know, this is my doodad, right? And then it updates it. And if I change its position to bottom, I could change position to left and to right. Oh, the right one didn't go right. Let's see, why not? Oh, because see right here, right and center, it should be left and center. And if I look over here, boom, it's already been updated and it works. And it's my jam. So what's really cool about this too, I can actually go ahead, any properties that I associate on these. So let's say if I drop in like a little drop shadow effect, right now it's now updated here. And if I ever want to change my text, I just change it right there on the right. So I don't have to worry about barreling down inside of my text field. So like, let's say if in each one, right, I had like a secondary bit of text that was like not bold, I can also kind of include that as part of it. And I can also go here, select all of that text, and I can create a another property. So like right now, let me see, where's my content? So I can break that and I can create a new property, and I can call this second text, and I'll just call this call out, or I'll say subtext, right? And I have a new property. So now when I select this, there's two properties here. So it's like the bold text, and then there's the light text. Cool. So kind of like quick ways, kind of like make things to make your life a little bit easier. Any questions on that? Next up, really quick, dark mode. Easiest way to turn on dark mode, Command P, and then type in dark, and then it goes into dark mode, right? Command P, type in light, goes into light mode. You can also barrel in and say use system theme. So when you use system theme, so what did I call it? System theme. Use system theme. It'll base it off of the theme of your system. So if you have your mode change from day to night, depending on time of day, it'll use that and it'll actually respond to whatever like your system. So if you're on a Mac and like it's nighttime and your theme goes into nighttime, your Figma will automatically respond to that. Cool. Cool beans. All right, cool. One other thing too with that absolute positioning, right? So like, let's say you have like little, you know, like little dots that you want to associate. So if I was to have, you know, like if I was to have like a list of these, right? And I press Shift A, so they're an auto layout, and I do this one, and I want to auto layout this object, right? It's actually a lot better. So right now I can put it there. However, if these objects scale in size, that's not going to move with it. So my recommendation for that is if you're going to create an object and you're going to have like a little like like a little notification to go with it. I'll show you more specifically. Like if I was to have like a button and I press Shift A, right? And I add this like, this text to go with it. Let me make that littler. That's huge. So here I have a button. Let me give it a fill, right? Let me make that text white. And like I want this little notification to like follow with the button. This is now nested with it. So if I turn on absolute position, I'm going to drag and hold the space bar. And if I set this to right and top, right, as I type, it's gonna scale and move with it, right? So what you actually want is like let's say this is an auto layout. What you want is multiple of these to let me swap that to be horizontal. There we go. You want multiple of these, so then as these change, that dot is localized to that smaller auto layout, like the nested auto layout. So when you're building it and you're thinking about like what is going to be absolutely positioned, think about what it needs to be relatively positioned to. So like I said, like, you have that rectangle, you got that dot, right? Align them up first, set that to auto layout, move that first, right? And then if you got all these together, then auto layout them, right? So then this way, if each of them, I'm gonna select them all, make sure they're all right and top. This way, if one of these, oops, my box gets bigger, there you go. If the box gets bigger, it'll always align to the correct thing, if that makes sense. Cool. All right, so we covered a lot. Let's see, component properties, once again, I'm gonna just do like one last thing with it because I want y'all to feel at least comfortable enough to play around with it because I think it's pretty powerful. Um, let's see. How am I doing? Okay, y'all kind of getting this? Am I going at okay enough speed? I know it's being recorded. If there's any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. So let's say I'm making a card. So I have the image and I have the text. I'm gonna press Shift A. I'm gonna give it a fill. I'm gonna give it some padding, right? So I got some padding. That is hella padding. I need to reduce that padding. That's too much. So I got some text there. I'm gonna hit Command D. I'm gonna Option double click, press V. I'm gonna left align that. So this is set to auto height. This I'm also gonna fill container and like let me set this text like left, right? So this would be like the title of like the card. And then this might just be some body text, right? So boom, 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 boom. Very important stuff. Let me reduce that size. Let's say 12. There we go. Or, ooh, make this 16. Ooh, not 169, 16. There we go. And make this a little bit bigger. There we go. It's like proper card size. Okay. So like, let's say I'm like designing out this card, right? So now once again, I can double click on these sides and I can see what that spacing is. Option, click, there's my spacing. Let's say I want to make it all even. Let's just say 24. Nope, too much. Let's option double click. Let's just say 16. There we go. I'm okay with that. Let's round out those corners. Right. And even in here, you'll see that there's a spacing value. So when I select this frame, I could adjust that spacing. So let's say like a value of 4. So this is set to fill container. This is set to fill container. This is set to fill container. So each of these objects are filled to the size of this. So if I look, only the vertical dimensions are hugged, so they're clamping down on it, but the width is kind of fixed. So I'm determining, that width value. Make sure that this is set to fill, right? So when I select this, this is now like the responsive little bit. One thing that's important, if this is inside of another frame, let me darken that up so you can see it. If this is inside of another frame, there's also constraints at play here. So you'll notice that as I'm scaling, let me see the height. is HUD to HUD contents. There we go. So as I scale this, right, you see it's being scaled from the top left. So as long as this is in a frame, I could set constraints. So I could actually set this to center. So now when I like scale, right, you'll actually see them scale from the left and right. So this is actually something that I've seen too. Let me change that to HUD contents. Let me give this a fixed width, say 160. And I'm gonna resize that. There we go. So basically what I was saying here is that with the constraints set center, you can scale things from the center. If it wasn't, it's going to come from the left and the top. So always think about, like, as you're resizing things, like how you want the thing to resize, because it can also impact how it will resize when you prototype it. So let's say here, right? So I got this object, this object, this object. Its heights are all going to be set to fill container. Let me set this one to be a little bit bigger than the other ones. We also now have text truncation. So what text truncation means is that if I was to, let me set that height is set to fixed. This is set to fill. All right. And so basically if I, let me just run one over here real quick. I'm like adjusting too much complexity here. All right, so if, oh yeah, that's why, because I didn't do it yet. All right, so if I select this, you'll see that there's a property in here called text truncation, truncate text. It's under the hidden menu in text. You can also just option click the fixed field here, and you'll see this little icon that says truncate text. So now when this goes smaller, right, this text that I have here that fills up this space, oops, just typing in all this stuff. There you go. Boop, 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 boop. Right now my text is coming from the center. I actually don't want to come from the center. Let's say I want to come from the top. There we go. So when I am now resizing this, you'll see it'll constrain it and it'll like get rid of it, right? It's like hiding it out right there. And let me see, this title has like way too much. That should be up from the top, and it should be HUD contents. There we go. So this one should be fill. So that's HUD, that is fixed, and that one is fill. And then on the right side, option double click is fill container. So double click will make it HUD contents, which I don't want. Option double click will be fill container. So a couple things that you can do to kind of like mix and mash this up. If you have something like a button that you want to like hide inside of there, let me grab this like little button here. We'll make a little component. I could add it to the stack, and I could also make it absolute position. And I could also determine it to be like, let's say, right and bottom. So, you know, if the text, you know, grows, right? This text will grow. If this text grows, it's always going to stay there. Or like my height changes, right? It's going to follow where I want it to be. So there's like a lot of different uses for how that button can be placed. And I know I'm probably not giving y'all the best example for this, but I wanted y'all to see that you can have these elements that can like kind of live freely in the auto layout, and then other elements that are going to like determine, you know, how they behave. The one thing too that I want to just notice is that the on canvas elements are present only in the frames, in the main components, but the second that you have an instance, you won't see that. And that's to keep from accidental input happening. You could still control them over here on the right, and they're still visualized as you're changing them. However, they're not going to be able to adjust them on the canvas for an instance. So I know that's something that a couple of people have been tripped up on, so I just wanted to highlight that there as well. Last thing, I know we're running out of time, that I do want to cover. Let's say I have this card and I have a little frame, and this frame has nice little color there. Frame, give it some color. So we got spring animations now. Spring animations are kind of dope. So if I make this like small, then I have another one where I make it, you know, bigger. I can now prototype this. Exit that mode. So on click, navigate to, let's Marn animate. And here we go. We got a bunch of presets: gentle, quick, bouncy, slow, custom spring. Custom spring allows you to change the stiffness, the damping, and the mass. So these are all values that you can begin to change. You can also kind of like mess with this linearly on the canvas, and you get a preview of what that looks like. So let's even have this go back with the same one. I'm going to hit play on that flow, and there we go. Oh yeah, I'm not doing nice things with the scale, but let me just kill that text because that text is set to truncate. So let's just do, oops, there you go. It'll just refresh. Boom. There you go. So now I got spring animations, bouncy. And then the very, very, very last thing that I'm going to highlight is variable fonts. So we actually have if you go to fonts.google.com and you just say show only variable fonts, you could see their list of just variable fonts that allows you to get different weights and values of the type that you're working with. And adjust it with a slider. So like, let's see, let's do Roboto Serif. So here I'm going to type in some text and let's choose Roboto Serif. And if I can go right here and right click and you'll see variable font axes, and you'll actually see all of these axes right here. So I could change the width of the type. I could change the weight of the type. I could change the gradation of it and the optical size, right? So the optical size is kind of like the difference in value of the width versus the height, because we all have like a width bias. And now we see I can even set it automatically. So what's really cool is that the various type, excuse me, that you use, you can adjust these values to kind of get exactly what you're looking for. So you're not limited to these like typical steps of like 500, 600. You can go 546.1. You can kind of like adjust these as you're working in your design. So any type that you identify as a variable font will give you that ability to have a little bit more granular control over that type. So now this is fully available in Figma. And like I said, if you want to see what are the fonts that you have available and using with variable fonts, you could easily just go up here, choose show only variable fonts. I know there's another web page that like demonstrates it a little bit more, but I'm so used to going to Google Fonts anyways that, so Archivo Narrow, right? Select that. Archivo Narrow, boom. And then I can go to variable font axes. And there we go. I can make those adjustments. How cool is that? Last thing I was going to say, outline mode. There's a greater sense of how outline mode works. So if I go ahead here and I make little hearts, right? Let's do that. And let's do that and make it a little bit thicker. There we go. So if I have a little heart, if I go Shift O, I will actually see the outline as well as the lines, right? So you get a much better sense of how the heart is being created, because it'll also give you the outlines. And previously in outline mode, you would only get these lines, but you'd have no sense of the thickness of the stroke. Outline mode is going to just give you a much greater sense of the objects that you're working with. So here, if I go into like auto layout, right, you can actually see how things are constructed a little bit more, and you can actually select objects behind objects. So you have a lot more control over selecting things behind things when you go into outline mode. So just wanted to throw that out there. And I know I'm probably a little bit over time, but hopefully that was of benefit to you all and some of the new things that we have. That was like, let's see, dark mode, component properties, spring animations, variable fonts, outline mode, independent strokes, auto layout, spotlight, favoriting files. So when you go back to when you go back to like Figma, you can now favorite a file. So when you favorite a file, it'll show up under your favorite files. And then there's also a fun thing too, where if you're in here, let me see. No, I don't believe that's actually, I think I'm probably thinking of something that I'm not supposed to talk about yet. So that's okay. I just won't talk about that. So here, yeah, you could also unfavorite files and then they'll kind of like be removed from that little area. Actually, can I show y'all one more thing? Is that okay? Can I show y'all one more
Go for
thing?
it. Go for it.
All right, cool. So this is something that I'm working on. Um, This currently doesn't work, but I submitted a bug report and it should start working this week. And I'll show you how to use this really cool thing with auto layout. So watch this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw like a square, right? And I'm gonna draw on a circle. So I got that edge, I got that edge, right? And I got these edges. So these circles, I'm gonna subtract so I get this like little outline, right? So I'm gonna shift X to get that like little outline. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna command click on this one. And oh, what I need to do with this is I'm gonna put this inside of a component, right? So if I command click on this, I could set constraints. So I'm gonna set left and top, right? I'm gonna just command click on this one. I'm gonna set right and top, right? I'm gonna select this one. I'm gonna say right and bottom. I'm gonna select this one over here and I'm gonna say left and bottom, right? So basically, oh, and then also I'm gonna select the rectangle in the middle and I'm gonna say left and right constraint and top and bottom constraint. So you'll see here, as I move this, it keeps that frame, right? So it's a subtract, but this is top left, bottom right, like they all have their constraints. So like as I scale this, oops, as I scale this, right, like it's basically, I'll put it in outline mode so y'all can see a little bit better, right? You see the little circles as they're like adjusting and moving into space. Okay, so if I was to create a button, let me make that text a lot bigger. And let's go variable font axis. Let's drive that in. All right, so if I have this button and I press Shift A, so now it's in an auto layout frame. Let me give myself some padding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop an instance of this right into that auto layout frame. I'm going to make it absolute. I'm going to align it left and top. I'm going to say left and right constraints, top and bottom constraints, right? So I'm going to press Shift O and I'm going to scale that so it fits perfectly inside of that auto layout frame, right? So now when I type in here, oh, let me make sure the button is on the top layer. Oops. Just move this back. There you go. So now when I type in here, this is gonna respond to the text, right? So that gives you like so much freedom with what you create because you don't have to 9 slice scale. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this term, but basically it's like it's honoring those internal constraints of that subtract object. So what's cool about this is that, like, let's say even here, like in this main component, like I copy paste that and I put in an outside stroke, right? I now have multiple strokes by just stacking those objects there, right? So here I can still like adjust this and this grows. So right now, the only bug that I've actually gotten them to fix is that, so this works here in this auto layout frame. However, if I take this and make it a component, the component itself will work, but the instance won't work yet. So that is just a bug. They just didn't test it out. So this should go live in like a week or two. I know that there's already a fix for it. They just got to go through test. But the main one will work. So by the way, the easiest way to edit text inside of a component, just press the T key and click. So even if you got text that's nested way down, you can select that text easily. So if you just press the T key, select that text, and then you can type. So feel free to try one of these out. So what this is really good for is for like video game UI that has like very custom buttons and edges and things like that. This is going to give you a lot of freedom where you can kind of build out that frame, use, add, subtract, do a lot of like really cool things. Like if I wanted to, that text right there, that could be like a linear gradient, that is applied, so then it'll just continue to grow and then apply in that like expandable way. So I'll probably be tweeting about this and making another tutorial once this goes live. But this was an edge case that I found pretty early on, like as soon as auto layout came out, and was like, hey, like we're not actually solving this edge case right. Um, I just didn't realize that it didn't work with instances. I knew that it worked with the frame. So I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Pretty cool.
Slick.
All right. So, and I know I made this look like hella ugly. Like you could totally make it like way more beautiful. So like, I could select this. There you go. Made it blue. That's more beautiful. It's beautiful is what it is. I could even drop in a little background color text there. So beautiful. Oh yeah, and like the main components totally jacks up the instance, but let's just pretend I didn't see that. And here, let's not drop the, yeah, I think the fill is just on the inside object. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, it's in something there. It's on the text. I don't know where that fill is. That's so weird. All right. Anyways, yeah. And then you could adjust the padding. Even if I adjust the padding on this, you'll see that the padding is still like kind of adjusting those frames, and those frames are acknowledging, what I'm telling it to do. So it's gonna make it really cool to kind of make these really custom buttons in the future, like right in Figma, that expand and contract with your text. So really good for video game UI. All right, and I think that's about it. Thank you all for joining today. Once again, my name is Miggi. I'm on Twitter at Miggi. My Figma community files are figma.com/@Miggi. If you need to reach me, you can do Miggi@figma.com. I'm hit Command D. Also, feel free to reach out to education@figma.com. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm usually here. I'll make like a loom to like help you through like an issue or something. But basically, my goal is to help y'all level up and inspire y'all to make more fun things with Figma and see the potential that it has. Oh yeah, this example is kind of cool too because you type in like the numbers, right? It's like 1,000. So it's like auto layout and auto layout, but it's auto absolute position, and it kind of grows to fill that text. So check through this file, look through the existing playground files. As I mentioned, you got stuff here for variable fonts, little examples for spring animations, as well as the components prop playground. So if you want a duplicate of this file, you can just come up here and then go duplicate. But yeah, Generous, unless you have any things you want to say to close it out.
You want to plug your professor TikTok?
Oh yeah. Damn, I haven't made one in a while.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
go to TikTok at Professor Figma, you can see me on here. So one of my most recent ones, I'm making a phone icon in Figma. So like I'll walk you through making various things. Obviously, you can see I don't know how to use TikTok because I'm trying to advance, but it just keeps playing more TikToks. But yeah, check it out. I make a bunch of tutorials. I make really weird things, and have like a bunch of just different things, talking mostly about Figma. And then this was me hosting config and switching over to different hosts. So check that out. All right. So I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's like 8:15 on my end, but yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, if you ever want to introduce Figma to another professor, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to talk with them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Miggy. As always, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
All right,
Have
y'all.
a good
Have a
night,
good one.
everyone.
Take care.